We have another question. Please take away. No, it's
So I'm Lou Mulvey, and I was wondering if you could share a moment of like an early moment of queer joy, maybe your first one if you're comfortable, or just like anything like that.
Oh. I have to be I think really basic when I say that, but when I was in Berlin, I saw an amazing drag show. But yeah, that's what I said. I had the warning and it's like really basic, but it was really unknown artist was like in the kind of a basement or kind of like
No. I'm literally asking who it was because those unknown artists within a basement actually have a big thing. So please name the wonderful drag artists that you saw, because they are people that we can hunt down, because those people who perform in basements are changing the fucking world.
Yeah, the game changers.
Or do you not know?
I have the worst memory for that.
I'm so sorry.
It's always the worst when people ask me for names. I can remember faces, I cannot remember names. It's names and numbers. I'm very sorry. I wish I were.
Just remember who took you to the place.
What's the name of the night?
It was not something really big public. It's like I had two friends who were around and who took me.
They will know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Message them immediately.
I know, and I already know. Yes, it was just like so amazing to be in the space and seeing the show. I think I cried so much, but it was like out of joy because it was like so brilliant and I felt so understood and so seen and just being in the space. And I would say that's a memory that I connected with joy.
Are we getting on the line?
Yeah.
This is the thing. It feels so awful to say. I don't think I have any memories of queer joy. I have queer memories. Don't get me wrong. All my memories are queer. They come from a queer brain. Come on. But I have queer memories. I mean, I think my earliest memory of being like I'm queer was when I was about 4. But queer joy, I don't think I have any joyous queer memories. Not at all. That's not what I'm going to. I don't have any. I don't have any before like
Quick one.
the age of about 19. And I think it was where obviously I'm a performer. And I went to see Anne Juliet in the West End, which not my favourite show in the world, but it's great. And I remember seeing Alex Thomas Smith, very cool non-binary performer on stage in the first non-binary role. Not explicit enough for my liking, but it is a non-binary role. The first non-binary role that I've ever seen on stage in a musical, which is, my area of expertise. And I just remember being so happy. And it was the moment that it clicked. I was like, oh my God, I can be in this industry and I don't have to put on that much of a mask. Like I don't have to constantly be playing a man. I can get up on stage, and there are roles. Well, I'm hoping it sort of had started a bit of a revolution in terms of non-binary roles on stage. Certainly in musical theatre, I think in straight plays, not straight plays. Not like, no, dancing. I think it's around a bit longer. I don't know if anyone saw I Joan at the Globe. Yes. Amazing. Brilliant. But yeah, that was explicit. That was explicit. Not in terms of the content, just in terms of the representation. But yeah, I think that's probably my earliest memory. I'm sorry it's such a late memory, but that is probably my earliest memory of queer joy. Yes.
I can't do an early memory of queer joy. When you've spent that long trying not to exist, queer joy is kind of a difficult thing. But I do have a wonderful memory of total queer joy. So my first name is Jane, which we start the letter J. I'm in the middle of changing my middle name to E, spelled E. Exactly. What it's like to have a name where you walk up and they're like, "What's your first name?" J, just the letter J. And they're like, "What's your middle name?" E. And you spell that E. And I also don't know, as I punch myself in every language that is not English, because J is not J in French.
Wow.
It's not J in German. It's not J in Portuguese.
Yes.
It's not J in anything else. Neither is E.
Yeah.
E is every other sound but E. So I have punched myself and I find that absolutely hilarious. So that is total queer joy that I get every time I write my name. And which I think is even better than thinking of the first time I had queer joy, because it just feels so me
Yeah.
to have a name like that, because it's fucking transgressive and it's non-binary and it's genderqueer and it just feels like it fits, and that is just joy. When did it happen? It's only been in the last 6 months that I've made that decision, but there's been joy earlier, but that's kind of like that moment that I can talk about in a really coherent way.
That's so fun. For me, I was at a wedding. I was turning 13. The 2 people getting married were Jewish. They said, "Now have a bar mitzvah." I said, "Eek." And I remember like feeling eek at 13, like, but that means I'm a boy becoming a man. Eek. I mean, also I wasn't Jewish and there's a lot of other things there. It was mainly that. And then Peter Andre came in. Wish. Then Peter Andre came in, singing Mysterious Girl. And the performance artist, Le Gâteau Chocolat, jumped out of the cake. And
Is it chocolate?
it was, absolutely.
Of course.
And between Peter Andre's flushed orange cheeks and the Gâteau Chocolat coming out of his cake, I was like, damn, I'm gay as hell.
We are awakening. Mine's less interesting. Mine was High School Musical too. And I looked at Zac Efron and I went, ooh. And then I looked at Vanessa Hutchins and went, but ooh. Here we are. Fantastic. Please, I mean, throw the mic.
Hi, I'm Martin from Atypicals. It's the 1-year-old and the UK's only queer neurodiverse support group. That's got nothing to do with what that was just a plug. I wanted to know to hear a lot about cisgender patriarchy and stuff. But we don't very often talk about endosex supremacy, or whatever you want to call it. So in what ways do you think that queer endosex people can be better allies to intersex people? Who may also be cisgender.
So just for those of us who are catching up on lingo, endosex is the reverse of intersex. So intersex is somebody who's got indeterminate gender from their chromosomes or hormones or something like that. And endosex is you've got a more congruent, your body has a more congruent notion. Is that, have I got it about right? Sorry.
Yeah, so like I'm XXY and I was assigned male. So even though I'm also agender, that means I'm not cisgender or endosex. And somebody who is it basically means that your sex characteristics meet the criteria for what we typically label as male or female.
Gotcha. Thanks for that.
So you basically say
I said a bit tumbled. Just be better. I'm sorry. I mean, I know that there are people who say, I've had polycystic ovaries, which kind of means that there are parts of me that look like they're intersex and parts of me that don't, and that's kind of in that weird thing. And there's some people who prioritize your intersexness or feel I'm like, just be gender, it's not a binary. Gender is not our physical sexual characteristics are also not a binary. But I understand that if you're fighting for your rights within that binary, that it is much harder. So we just need to be better. I can't think of anything else to say. As a possibly Indo-ish sex person.
I think no. I'm struggling processing the language. I'm struggling processing the rephrasing as well, so I just need to be quiet.
Can you re-ask the question? Just for me, read it just for my brain. So it's easier for me. I mean,
Yes.
you can do it. I was yeah, sure.
What do you want me to?
Could you re-ask the first question? I like
All right.
got lost. on
So
it.
endosex
Yeah.
is someone who, when they were born, the doctor said it's a boy or it's a girl. That's basic. There's nothing to do with gender or anything. Typically, obviously, you get them assigned the gender that society thinks is aligned with that, which is cisgender. Which means that therefore you're cisgender, sorry. But if you are born with any variation of what they would say is a boy, is a girl, then you are intersex, or it could be labeled as a variation of sex characteristics. 1.7% of the population meet that, which is more than redheads, which is more than trans people, but do not have any rights in any country in Europe except Malta.
Wow.
If you are born intersex, not everybody accepts that term, but generally it's a human rights language. If you are born intersex, then you can't transition gender either. It's a endosex privilege that only endosex trans people have. So actually, you know, when we talk about cis privilege, we kind of erase the intersex experience because we're not recognizing that intersex people do not have, whether they are cisgender or not, do not have the same privileges. And you know, there is regular. I feel like this context is important for my question. So, sorry. But yeah, like every day there are hundreds of forced surgeries on intersex people. Whether it's about your chromosomes, your genitalia, other things about your anatomy. And yeah, last year I went to the funeral of a person who was intersex, and they themselves talked about the fact that they had ovaries and a penis. But they were born labeled male, and when they died, all of their family were given eulogies about their brother, even though this person transitioned, not legally, but transitioned to female later on in life. And a lot of queer people were completely not understanding of that. They didn't understand why anybody had a problem. All of their intersex friends had a problem. You know, and people will talk about the fact that cisgender people have all these privileges, but hardly ever hear queer people talking about the privileges that queer people have when compared to intersex people. And I think that it kind of says a lot that we don't know the term endosex as a community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask, like, how do you think we can be better at that? Does that make sense now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to explain that. I think the same concept of allyship applies, right? And it's about who's dominating voices in those kinds of conversations. Because there are minorities within minorities within minorities, and then there are people within those minorities of minorities of minorities who still are silenced actively by the other minorities and the minorities and the minorities. So I feel, to answer your question directly, it's a case of democratizing access to spaces like this, democratizing power, and again giving up positions of power of the people who are at the front screaming about queer as the umbrella. Well, let's get specific, you know, and when we are campaigning and when we are being activists, who are we asking who's missing? Because it's a really big question, because as soon as you ask who's missing, you understand who is not represented. And 1.7% is a really small percentage of people, but that doesn't mean that we just forget. It doesn't mean that we erase, and it doesn't mean that we talk over, and it doesn't mean that we don't have the conversation because it makes us uncomfortable or fragile, or we become insecure in our lack of knowledge. I've never heard that phrase up until you mentioned it today, because a lot of the conversation in the circles that I'm in right now is still using reductive binary language like assigned male at birth and assigned female at birth. And I'm here trying to campaign for better language, and now you've gifted that to me. So I'm grateful, because now I can actually have things to say of depth and reference and signpost people. So what I'm saying is about education. What I'm saying is about, again, people with privileges to amplify those experiences and to amplify those voices and bring that discourse into the mainstream. Yes.
Yeah, I first just want to say thank you for bringing it up. I had heard those terms, but thank you for explaining them so eloquently. No, thank you, honestly. And thank you for bringing up this topic, because I think it's very important. And thank you for bringing that into this space. And I think I just second everything that Malakaï just said. It's that thing, we have so many, like there's so much, I can't think of the right word, within the queer community. Like that there's so many, I can't phrase it properly, but do you know what I'm saying?
We eat our own too often,
We eat our own too often.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
and not in a good way.
I mean, but yeah, no, we do, we eat our own too often. And that can extend to the wider community, that can extend to every other community. And yeah, I think I'm going to second what you said as well. I think we do just need to do better. I can't think of a better way to put it.
Can I just put a phrase in there? Maybe just celebrate each other more.
Celebrate each other more. I love that. I really like that. Thank you. Yeah, celebrate each other more. Do better. I genuinely can't think of another way of articulating it. But I want to say thank you for bringing it up.
I think what would apply to many aspects is being kind and kind of like providing a helping hand, and just like how much I think we all can be happier is no matter how much we struggle, but still having an eye on what's around us. I think this, and then because I've personally never experienced that when I was kind, that I didn't receive kindness back, and also brave. I had so many times that I wasn't fully myself, and I realized only when I'm brave to be myself and to be outspoken that I'm met with the same privilege. I had friendships who shaped up so quickly just because from the first second I was with that person, I was completely 100% honest. I talked about issues I had, even if I just like not know them, just would keep that away. But I was like so open about everything that this shaped up, and then that me giving trust to that person meant I received the same amount of trust back.
Yes.
And that just built such a strong foundation. And I think if we practice that more often and think about it, because we always, to the outside, we often try to project to be this kind of like a business side of us, and kind of like, oh, this is like the most perfect me who I want to present today. And if we step away from that and actually show, hey, we are all kind of a bit, we all have things we have to deal with. None of it is perfect. And if we just embrace it and embrace it with the other people, then I think we can all help each other.
Yeah.
I have a thought that it will take us outside of queer joy is, I'm sorry to do this, trans healthcare sucks and we need better. Trans admin sucks. The fact that you can only transition across the binary means I have no legal gender. Although I do have a legal gender in New Zealand, which is transgressive non-binary gender queer, because I have a statutory declaration, because I went for a kind of self-ID. I'm waiting to find out what my birth certificate can be changed to, because they've got something coming out next year. Which is going to be wild. I just can't wait to change my name and my gender on my birth certificate in New Zealand, and then kind of bootstrap all the admin over here. But that's the only way for me to do it, because there is no way for me to legally have a gender that is congruent with me here. And I want that for everybody. And I want everybody to have the medicalized access to the medicalized treatment that they desire. So the medicalized model of trans, fuck that. The fact that a lot of non-binary people need to go into that medicalized model of trans across a binary to get what they want. Fuck that. So that's part of what I mean. We need to do better. We need to break those two structures. There's a structure around that medicalized model of gender, which unfortunately intersex people fall within as children. And we need to fuck up this whole admin model of there's only 2 markers that you can have on your passport, because that fucking sucks. Not exactly trans joy, but hey, or queer joy, but I think it's joyful to think of that future and to live for it. Actionable future.
Yeah.
Because that makes the thing. If you can take action, you can feel more powerful than sitting there going, I can't take action. If we can agree that those 2 things should go, then we've got something to work towards, and the issues that cross the boundaries of identity. And I think that's also really important, is focusing on the issues over focusing on the labels and the identity. Because I think that gets us so much further.
Core problems,
I just like to say, I know we have to finish, but I also think everything comes back to the point of visibility. If people don't see us, like, for example, I'm sure I speak for a lot of people in this room when I say we didn't know those problems were happening before we walked in here tonight. I didn't realize that is what was going on. Because it's not on the news. Essentially, it's not on the news.
Should we have queer news on
We
BBC?
should have queer news on BBC. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But trans women using a bathroom or a facility that is congruent with their gender. Now that's news. Trans women are going on a show. That's news. Fuck the news.
Either news.
What more joy? So yeah, we're going to have to. Did anyone have any quick fires? Oh, quick fire, really quick fire, quick fire. I'm being shouted at through laughing.
Hi, I'm Lilli. I used to say that. I also designed the event. In 3 words or less, what makes you feel queer and joyous?
Ooh.
Existing.
Yes.
Creativity.
Doing the most.
Love.
I don't know if you have a sign off on your podcast. Do you have a sign off? How do you sign off?
Oh, we usually spend about 5 minutes discussing how breathtaking Keanu Reeves is. Because It's not just because he's gorgeous and he's a dude in a super dude way, and he takes that into every single role. It's breathtakingly hilarious. But he's also kind as a person. Like you
Yeah.
see the stuff that he does to people, he does with people, he does with people that he's worked with, and
Genuine.
genuine, kind person. But then we just go bye.
Our sign off is bye gay. That's an inclusive.
You've got the word bye.
But oh, I've got the word bye.
Oh, that was hot.
You don't shout bye gays if you want.
Yeah.
Me, but
Now you want have to read barbershop it.
there's no way that we can like say
What should we all shout love?
Yeah.
love.
Love.
Queer love.
Queer love. What was
For joy.
for joy? Queer joy. 3, 2,
One.
1.
Big.